That was an incredible presentation that Rainey just did, and I think it really underscores, who we are as a company. And I'm thinking back when Mauricio was interviewed earlier with Bosix, and they asked, what are the characteristics that undermine who we are as a company? And I think Rainey just exemplified that by, it's all about connection and it's all about heart. And I think that's really the thing that brings us all here together and why we excel and do as well we do. And what she just did and was so vulnerable and was able to share her journey, I think was extraordinary. So I just have to give thanks to that and recognize it. Anyway, we're here to talk about the next generation of buyers and luxury consumer trends, and we've got an extraordinary collection of diverse individuals who will be able to give their perspectives on where we're going in terms of the next generation of buyers and consumer trends. So most of you know Santiago, of course, number 6 real estate agent in the country. He's closed billions of dollars. I mean, a guy who has really come onto the scene in an extraordinary short period of time, in large part because he's able to listen to people, understand what they want, and really deliver what it is they need. We're also joined by Tim Davis, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Burgess Yacht. It's a 50-year-old company with 40 offices around the world. They're the global super yacht industry leader. He's a highly experienced commercial marketer who has worked with pretty high-profile brands from Red Bull to Virgin to Vodafone. And then we've also got Rachel Regan, who is a Senior Vice President at Exclusive Resorts, which is a 20-year-old private members-only vacation club with a nearly $1 billion portfolio of private homes. This is a club that provides not just luxury homes that you can, enjoy your life, but also incredible experiences. I think that as we look at where we're at today, we're really at the end of, the baby boomer years here. At 62 years old, born in 61, the boomer class or generation is we're waning out. It's that time is the mantle's being passed over, and we're now looking at Gen X and millennials, and we have to really think about now, what is it that is going to appeal to these people? And I think when you really think about generations, we think about they're shaped by the events of the world of their time. And, boomer events are different from Generation X, different from millennials. And I think we look at, boomers, they made their money through, elbow grease and dedication. And, as we move through Gen X and Gen Y, money came through very different ways in tech, in celebrity and influencing, and it came fast. And I think the way that different generations look at things are in different ways. We've seen how entertainment and video content has, gone from, what we saw in the 70s, 60s, 70s and movies, and, now quick NTV cut type content. And so I think the way that we're going to engage with these generations are quite different. So let's start and maybe start with you, Tim. How are you shifting your marketing and positioning to target today's high net worth buyer?
And I guess some background on Burgess very quickly.
Great.
We are the global leader in the business of super yachting. So we are a one-stop shop for super yachts, whether you're buying, selling, chartering. So anybody in the audience that wants to buy or sell or charter, please let me know. We can definitely help. And I guess we are, as Billy's kindly said, we're a 50-year-old business. And I think I'm allowed to say it with a British accent, but super yachting is very much pale, male and stale, that it's a traditional business. And I think part of the job that we have is to evolve the brand and evolve the business to become relevant and engaging for a new audience, because the kids of our owners or our charterers often look at them and think this isn't relevant, this isn't cool. So it's very much about translating that product. Historically, we've been a very outside-in brand, so we will show people a picture of a big white boat and think that that's cool and build it and they will come. And that's completely opposite. We have shifted that focus now very much to be inside out. So what can I see from the yacht? Where can I go? What's the food going to be like? What destinations can I see? What experiences can I have? And it's those experiences that Maurizio was talking about at the start, that it's very much, it's a currency now, I think, for this new generation. It's about creating memories. It's about what can they tell their mates? What can they put on Instagram? And really trying to bring that life. So it's almost dicing and slicing our brand and the experiences that we deliver for people to make it digestible for that audience. But we have to, I think for our relatively traditional business, we have to recognize that things are changing, and it's driven by that audience, that it's, we are, I believe, and we are essentially just luxury travel, just the very top of luxury travel, but we have to recognize that it's shifting. And I often talk to the people in our business about that we should look at being a private island business. A super yacht is just a private island. People understand private island experiences, but when it rains, you can move this private island. And I think if we start to communicate around super yachting, around this idea of private islands, you can still bring your chef, your security detail, but it just changes the dialogue. Rachel.
It's so interesting. Hi, y'all. Welcome to Texas. So good to have you here. This is my home, although I flew in this morning from Houston and had the slowest Uber driver known to man. And I'm like, but thank you for having me. A little about Exclusive Resorts, which is so interesting. We are a 20-year-old company celebrating 2 decades this year, but we founded this business sector, the whole thing. So as you look at what you guys are doing and kind of galvanizing a traditional way of looking at real estate, we really created a new way that the luxury consumer travels. I would say, though, it's very different than it was 2 decades ago. So what we are doing now is really, we've always been about individualizing travel. So we are the largest owner of privately held real estate in the world. We have about $1 billion in real estate portfolio, but it's private and it's only traveled by our members. We're a small boutique club purposefully. We allow about 200 families in a year, again, very purposely, because it's about what's important to them. It's not about a great yacht vacation because you can charter it for a week. It's about what's the experience, and then immersive travel that allows you to understand the cultural places that you are in the world and have your children experience what it is to be at a local school in Africa, or maybe on that private island, and what that means to be in the wildlife or the marine life that's there. So, but I think as we market now, it is about understanding that post-pandemic, it's been about creating, we kind of went into a safe sanctuary. People wanted the safety and the security of their private home, or knowing what is there. And that has actually transformed at a great degree over the last 2 years to back to bucket list. I want to experience the world in ways I would have never experienced. Time is fleeting. How can you create for me something that no one else can have access to for my family? So we just had 75 members on a private jet around the world. Our jet that was with National Geographic, and kind of culturally immerse those families. But that might not be your cup of tea. You might rather have a road trip through Italy with a private setting with the Pope, or whatever it might be. So we create those things for member families. So it's not just about a trip or a vacation anymore. It's about understanding and really marketing and curating what's important to that family in a safe environment that allows them to explore the world.
Do you think that's something that is a generational division, or do you think that that's a zeitgeist within the world today, as far as, wanting more of a specific experience as opposed to a thing or a collection?
I think luxury in general has become much less about that thing or object. And I want that handbag, I want that car, I want this, and more about what it feels like to be in that moment. And I want that feeling. I want to feel that emotion. And I think that is a product I do believe at a greater degree of not necessarily generation or age or type, but in where people are in their life stage. And we all progressed really quickly post-pandemic when we were locked down. And so now if you have the blessing and the wherewithal to be able to afford things at a certain level, you now want your children to understand and feel what it feels like to have that experience. So I don't think it's age specific. I think it is actually specific to the time that we're in.
And I would add to that. I think we have to be very careful not to pigeonhole people into they're a millennial or they're this. It's an attitude. And I think you can have a millennial mindset, but you might not fit into that that classic millennial segment. And I think that's what we have to be as marketeers. I think we have to be very aware.
Is that where we are now?
I think almost certainly. Almost.
I like to think of myself as not in a boomer mindset. So
I agree.
Santi, so how are you're obviously focusing on sales of homes, and you're reaching out to the most, highest net worth people out there. And, are you changing the way that you're approaching your marketing and, reaching these people?
I think if we look at the big picture, everything is always changing, right? So we as humans change, the industry changes, technology changes, and I think that we need to have the ability to look at what is important for that consumer. The new generation of buyers, whether it's general buyers or the luxury section of it, I think what's important for them is they're very digital savvy. So they highly rely on online platforms that can service and give them the information that they need. So we do need to pay attention a lot of that. Whether they're boomers or they are this, everybody is getting into the digital world, right? And I think that's a very important point that everybody needs to pay attention. There's companies, emerging companies for us in real estate that, the go-tos that we all know, Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, all those things. But there are new companies like True Parity that they're doing things a little bit different. Also, I think that it's very important to understand, and we're talking about the same thing, which is great. Mauricio started it, and then we're here talking about it's ultra important for them, and it's kind of like experiential over material goods, right? And that gets attached with what you just said, with emotions. It's like, what gets these people to pull the trigger? And we've been talking about this for a long time now, since, the agency started. What are the experiences that we can give them so we can emotionally attach to that property, to that good, to that service. So I think that's what we need to be.
And I think marketing to that feeling, to that emotion is the next trend, right? It is, yes, the digital platform is there because we need it, but then you look and you progress into AI and what's that doing and how is that going to change the landscape and how we market? It comes back to the people. It really will eventually come back to that relationship, the feeling that you created with them, and how you might speak to them might start on a digital platform, like you said, because it's a must now, but it will eventually come back to the relationship. And I think that is where the luxury consumer specifically wants to rest.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation. I think that, one of the reasons that we've been successful at the agency is early on we realized that you needed to really, and I'll give Lee Park credit for this in large part, you really need to identify and categorize, who your buyer archetype is, your consumer archetype is. And then you need to really think about, how you're going to emotionally engage them. And, we do that in the real estate world through, creating imagery and through creating content and narrative that will emotionally engage with them. It catches their attention. And then you've got to get it in, this content into a portal, an avenue, whether it's online or however it might be, where they'll find it. And so I think that's a large part of this. And I think what you were saying, Rachel, is that there's this relationship aspect of it that is probably more prevalent than it's ever been. How are you finding? How are you navigating the relationship aspect of that?
So I think it's the experience. As real estate agents, what kind of experience a buyer that you're driving around has while you're driving, and if you're a savvy person that understands the market and understands everything, whether it's information about schools, about restaurants, about the house, about the construction materials of the house, about what you're going to feel when you're living in here and what you're going to experience when you're jumping in that pool and how good it's going to feel at night when the lights pop in the city, if you have a city view. So whatever it is, I think that, in my opinion, the majority of my clients are clients that I become friends with, are people that they enjoy hanging out, and so it becomes, I'm not need to go and look at a bunch of houses, we're going to go and have a good time this afternoon and look at a bunch of houses, but also learn a lot and maybe have a dinner, maybe have a lunch or something. So that added value is something that we can all as real estate agents can do if we understand who our clientele is.
Yeah, I think the best people at any business or brand immerse themselves into the place that you are, and you are respected as a friend, a peer, or whatever it might be. And then that trust then transcends into a business relationship. And that trust then allows them to listen when you say, this is the place for you, or this is the, change in this yacht. I think you should go from black to white, or whatever it might be, because it fits who you are. So I think the relationship is a must.
I think it's that data is at the heart, and all that data is just it's a record of the knowledge that you hold. And I think what's in everybody, you know your client. Everybody here knows their client better than anybody else. But I think in luxury, there's that expectation. It's got to be right first time. Brilliant basics, right first time. And there's an expectation that we should be delivering that. And I think increasingly that luxury consumer is willing to share their data, share their knowledge, their passions with you, as long as you're enhancing their experience. And they're constantly looking for that experience, whether that's a simple transaction or that's 5 years of building a super yacht, as building the dream. They expect you to deliver it. And for us, you capture it through data, through every data point, every piece of knowledge, because you can then service that client better than anybody else. And Maurizio talked to, just listen. They'll give you the answers. They'll tell you what you want, what they want. They'll give you the answers. But the skill is, how do you act on those, rather than telling them what we want? What do they want? Listen, and then act.
That's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think as Mauricio said earlier, we're not selling 3 bedrooms and 2 baths or 4,200 square feet, but we're selling a lifestyle. And I think that it's really incumbent on us to communicate what that lifestyle is. And I think, with the NAR suit, particularly buyers agents are going to really need to do something more than they've done in the past, because buyers are identifying properties on their own. We're all in the portals, we're all online, so they're going to see what's available. So you need to think about what your value proposition is that's going to differentiate you from somebody else. And a lot of that will be that relationship, the knowledge based on the data, being able to communicate the lifestyle, and really delivering that difference that, will get you that fee as a buyer going forward in different ways. Thinking about data, Tim, what new trends are you noticing in the consumer spending as it relates to the luxury market?
I think and Rachel touched on it, there's definitely a shift away from ownership. Isn't it? Part of our battle definitely is that owning a yacht comes with it's fairly obvious who you are and what you do. And I think it's trying to translate that into experiences. And that, for me, is the key, is that we definitely see a shift, certainly with that younger marketplace of, how am I going to use my yacht? Even if I'm on charter, or if I own a yacht, can I go and use a yacht as a force for good? Can I go to an island and support? About 2 years ago, we had a photo shoot in Thailand on one of our yachts. And actually one of the locals from an island in Thailand swam out to the yacht and said, can you come and help us, please? And a lady had been cooking for the family and had thrown boiling water across herself and was horribly burned. And actually watching a yacht crew suddenly stop everything that they're doing on a photo shoot. And we moved the boat, we brought the lady on board. Some of these yachts have fantastic medical capabilities. And it's just understanding how the consumer of today, but tomorrow, really wants to use this product or this experience, and how do we support them do that? Anything, we believe in super yachting, anything is possible. We should be able to deliver the world's best experiences. But I think it's understanding what the customer, what the consumer, what the client wants, and we ask them, what do you want from your yacht charter? What do you want from the yacht that you're building? And I think certain luxury brands are afraid of asking, because we're luxury and the price point is up here. But I think increasingly we need to learn from more mainstream brands and actually reach out and get them involved with the process. So I think for us, it's that dialogue, it's that conversation. And it sounds obvious, but I think lots of, certainly previous hospitality brands that I've worked for, we're scared of talking to the client because we don't want them to say no. But I strongly believe if they say no, you've learned a hell of a lot more than you would have done if you hadn't asked them.
Nice. You mentioned that consumers today are looking more for experiences as opposed to things. And Rachel, that's certainly what you sell. Can you talk about how that shift has been occurring and what you're seeing in different terms of age?
So we're not afraid to talk to our folks, which is helpful. But that's the beauty of a small private club, is we can kind of move and transition based on what we're hearing back from our clients. But it's about listening, to your point, to begin with. So in the experience side of things, the exclusive resort started with homes, right? So instead of owning a second or third or fourth home or fifth, sixth, seventh, you now have, hundreds around the world, our staff, chefs, drivers, you just get to show up and have everything done based on what's important to you. And about 15 years ago, our members said, we love what you do, how this creates and what you're creating for our family and memories, but we still want to go on an African safari or dive the Great Barrier Reef or do it. And we just need you to go take care of it so we don't have to think about it. So make that happen. And we started with these once in a lifetime journeys with 4, safari, Monte Picchu, Australia, I believe, and the Galapagos Islands with National Geographic. And that's translated into 15 journeys around the globe that we curate that are unique experiences, from Thailand to private jet around the world, gorilla tracking with Jane Goodall, as I mentioned, but now 4 or 5 or 6 different time periods in which you can do that in a given year. And then we couple that with private experiences. So we've really quadrupled probably in the last decade or so the experiential side of travel. I think to your question on age specific, based on millennials or Gen X compared to baby boomers, what we are seeing is that members will come to exclusive resorts for different reasons. So it might be that you just had 2 children and you have the opportunity to now want to show them the world in a different way. And so you're looking for skiing or beach and kind of coupled with some experiential travel. The later you kind of move in your life stage, sometimes more time you have, sometimes more things become apparent to you that, hey, I want to do these things before this time frame or whatever it might be. So we're seeing that a younger demographic certainly come to the club for different reasoning. I want to experience this now. I have 5 years left with my children at home. This is what's happening. Time is very fleeting, which we all know, but especially if those of you in this room have children, you know that it goes real fast and you see them and you think, gosh, I do only have less time. And a baby boomer, an older consumer that comes to us is really looking to give back to their children. What can I do to give this to them when I'm not here? Can I allow them to have these experiences when I'm not here? One of my favorite members in Connecticut, we might have had a tequila or 2. And she decided to, to share her story with why she purchased a membership at exclusive resorts. And she wrote it in kind of in her legacy that when she's no longer here, that she'll continue to pay kind of the annual dues and structure for the membership for her children as long as they take 1 trip together a year. But even though she had 4 girls and she knew she wouldn't be the catalyst to bring them together, that by giving them this, it would allow those memories to be made when she was no longer here. So I think people look at things differently and experiences differently, but I do feel like the constant is that our members want to give back that feeling, that experience, either now or in the future, to their family and friends.
Yeah. Santi, I know you're dealing with the diverse cross-section of buyers and sellers, from young tech giants to, people who've amassed their fortune over decades. How are you differentiating in terms of the way that you're approaching them, in terms of gaining them as clients or reaching out to them or just delivering them their experience?
I think it's just understanding the individuality of each client, right? They're not all the same, but I see more and more that the older generations are more open to be talked and to be shown stuff and experience things more than how we're doing it now. Like, you would think that some certain age people are in Instagram, and they are, so they're watching and they're part of this. So there is a separation on how you need to talk to each person, but at the same time, it's kind of all coming together. So you need to have the ability to understand the personality and the needs of each individual and who they are and where they come from. We talk about this 1,000 times when you're doing a show, and you cannot show the house to the different people the same way you show to the last one, right? So it's the same. It's understanding, okay, so this is a new client, or this is the client that I deal with, and having an understanding of what background that person has, right? That makes you a better salesperson. So that's what I do. Like, I like to understand the person. I like to understand the need, and I like to understand why would they want to work with me? Why they see that value? Where is the experience on jumping on a car with me or going and seeing a house that makes them, wanting to deal with you? What value, information? What is it that you bring to the table that person wants to do it and pay attention to it? And you have to have the ability to talk to them and don't be afraid of them, because if you just agree to what they're saying or you're afraid to talk to them, then you cannot become one more that doesn't bring anything to the table. But if you have the ability to talk to them and don't be afraid of them, and then maybe in some cases you'll lose one or two clients, but the ones that they're going to want to listen to your advice, and is that how you position yourself as a higher level of professional too. If you have the ability to tell a client, no, it's not like that, it's like this, or this is my opinion, this is my professional opinion, now you bring in value to that person because they're not just listening to what they want to hear, but they're actually listening to someone that brings, that information to them that they might not have or nobody else told them before, Having the ability to not be afraid, be respectful, but also express your opinion gets people to want to listen to you. And that's how you raise your value.
Yeah, I think that's a key observation is that, we are real estate professionals, we're real estate advisors. And, while of course we've got to be mindful of what it is that the client wants, at the same time, sometimes you really need to express your opinion. Are we going to go through one of those again?
Cannot control that.
Is that our time?
You need to express your opinion. You have to have a courage of conviction. I think about a client that I had been working for with like 7 years, and there were a few houses that came really close to buying. And, we got to this next one, and he's a guy that overthinks everything. And I said, I really think this is your house. And, I think if we don't get this, we're going to look back and this is the one you're going to say, I wish I bought. And that really resonated with him. And it caused him to actually buy the house. And the other day he called me and said, I really want to thank, this years later, I really want to thank you for, saying that to me, because if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have bought it. And I want to be buried at this house. I don't ever want to leave. So I think, expressing your opinion and having that that mindset is important. In our final couple minutes here, are there any things you see for the future? Any tips? Any advice? 30 seconds that you have that you might give on this.
For me, I think the trusted partner thing is key. I think that really is talking and meeting some of the folks here last night. Actually, I think we're all doing it. We've got clients will come to us and ask us about real estate or classic cars, or it's just, you've got to be that trusted partner. It might not be a yacht conversation first, it might not be a real estate conversation or a vacation conversation, but it's being there and it's having that knowledge to have that broad, and it'll come. If you become that trusted partner, your moment will come. And I think we have to be very conscious of not to go straight for that yacht sale or that yacht charter. It's having the dialogue, it's striking up a friendship ultimately, and then that business will deliver.
Never about the relationship. It's never about the commission. It's always about the relationship.
I would say that's so true. We look at our business and how it's transcended from a, luxury vacation club. We really looked into what can we do to allow our members to live fuller, richer, more connected lives. And as an executive team, and really as we plan for our next decade, we've taken this kind of concept of 4,000 weeks. Does anyone know what 4,000 weeks is? The average American will live to be between 78 and 80 years old. And that gives you about 4,000 weeks on this planet to make the most of it. So how can we as a company create an environment, a community where people can live fuller, richer lives? And that's really what is the most important thing for us as we plan for the next decade. It's that community of richness that we can bring to every member of family. It's not the consumable or the home or the yacht or the experience. It's about all of those things. And how does that transcend into a fuller, richer life?
I would say value. Know your role and what's the value you bring to the table. What value you bring in, right? Because if you focus on talking to people and when you're servicing someone, it's like, what value I'm bringing on the table, that has a lot better result of thinking of how much money I'm going to make out of this one.
And I think as an agency, we bring a lot of value. And I think, what you were just saying, Rachel, about a richer, connected life is what we're all here for. I want to thank you all for your time. This incredible panel, incredible advice.